Gerry on the right, number 2 in the Player of the Year standings. Kevin Jones, 27, so he had a bye this weekend as well. He's on Scape Shift as we will be underway. Now, one of the dangers here on the Scape Shift side is that if Gerry runs out a really fast creature like a Thought Knot Seer or a Reality Smasher, Scape Shift doesn't kill those.
No, that guy just gets to stick around. And if your Thought Knot Seer is able to just connect 5 times, well, Kevin's dead.
So this is similar to the red-green Eldrazi deck. Now, we saw in Eldrazi Winter, there were red-green Eldrazi decks. We see Gerry starting out on Raging Ravine. Those decks never played Eldrazi Mimic. They played Mind Stone instead. They were much of a more big mana deck. This weekend, is Gerry on anything like Mimics?
Nope, there's no Mimics. Talisman of Impulse is our 2-mana spell for a full 4 copies. And the thing about Mimic, you wanted to board it out if you thought that it was going to be blocking. It's just terrible at blocking, and without the Iabugans, you can't guarantee that you'll have good attacks. So I do like not having the Mimics.
Gerry will cast Ancient Stirrings, get a copy of Karplusan Forest. He'll cast another Ancient Stirrings. So off Raging Ravine, Kevin may have thought that Gerry was playing Jund, but now that he sees a Karplusan Forest, he should know that he's playing against something else.
Yeah, it's weird to see Raging Ravine in Tron. Tron is a deck that's not very good at actually getting a bunch of colored mana. So activating Raging Ravine, not only kind of off plan for them and just like not something that they're up to. And the Karplusan Forest, the multiple Ancient Stirrings, Kevin Jones knows something weird is happening here.
I like these colorless sources. From Gerry, he finds a copy of Kessig Wolf Run. Kevin missed a land drop on turn 2. He now casts Sakura Tri-Builder. Now, you might notice that their players don't have too many cards in their hand. Kevin was on a mulligan to 5. Gerry was on a mulligan to 6. So that explains some of the slowness coming out in this game. Yeah,
and with Kevin stumbling on his mana in a deck that's all about getting 7 lands in play, this is clearly punishing Kevin more than Gerry at this stage in the game.
Gerry plays Kessig Wolf Run and plays his Talisman of Impulse. This is a situation with the fact that Kevin is playing Explores. He's playing 4 Explore, 2 Farseek. He would rather have Farseek on a draw like this.
Right.
The advantage to Explore is when you have an untapped land, Explore, and I'll put this in quotes, costs 1.
There's no guarantee that Explore actually gets you a land drop as well when you need to find it with the cantrip.
Right.
And then especially this issue is compounded with Kevin missing land drops by the fact that Gerry has 3 World Breakers in his deck. And I believe I've spotted one in his hand. That wouldn't always come into play against a deck that can ramp as quickly as Scape Shift. But with the awkwardness of the way this game is shaping up, that could be a big factor.
So Kevin plays a land. He plays Serum Visions, keeps a card on top, and plays Prismatic Omen to pass the turn. Little surprise, Kevin did have another Explore there, so if the top card was a land, he could have gotten it. But I suppose there's no rush on that.
Right.
He's got another copy of Omen in hand, a Lightning Bolt, and an Explore. The second Omen not really going to do much.
There's going to be windows down the road to find Explorer, try to hit a land. The thing about getting an additional land drop, he has to find 2 lands to really ever capitalize on that advantage. He just finds a window to put Omen on the battlefield.
Here's Thought Knot Seer for Thompson. We'll get to look at Kevin's hand. 2 Lightning Bolts, Prismatic Omen, and Explore. Now, Prismatic Omen actually does function as a ramp. In a lot of ways you can think of it as a ramp spell in this deck. It means that if you normally you have to Scape Shift on 7 lands to deal 18 damage. With an Omen in play, you can Scape Shift on 6 lands.
Correct. Prismatic Omen gives all your lands every basic land type. That includes Mountain. Valakut checks mountains. Valakut's not a mountain. You make your count smaller.
Also, if you Omen Scape Shift plus 6 lands, you can kill from any life total, whereas Scape Shifting on 7 lands only deals 18.
Mm-hmm.
Gerry's Thought Knot Seer will take one of the 2 Lightning Bolts out of Kevin's hand. So Kevin goes back to reload. He'll cast Serum Visions.
Yeah, and that pick for Gerry just makes perfect sense. 2 bolts could kill the Thought Knot Seer, the second Omen not doing anything.
Kevin keeps both cards on top. Does not. Prismatic Omen still in play. So 2 cards on top with these Serum Visions, but Kevin still no land drops. He passes back to Gerry. We're back to Thompson. Draws another color. This is Eldrazi Temple. There you go.
Yeah.
We're
at World Breaker. We're home.
Man, those lands were really good, weren't they? You just even see them draw, and you just remember, man, Those things were really unfair. I forgot about that.
Yeah, those lands that your opponents frequently mulligan into and then got down to 5 and killed you very easily on turn 4.
Yeah,
they were pretty
good.
powerful, yeah.
I did play against this deck at a recent Modern event, and I got turn 2 Thought Knot seared off them, and I remembered, okay, it doesn't happen as often, but boy, it's still good.
Yeah. When Lightning Bolt and Abrupt Decays are kind of the flagship removal spells of your format, 4 toughness, 4 mana, especially when you're cheating on mana, that's a huge threshold.
Big play by Gerry. He'll go ahead and fetch for a forest and play World Breaker. Now, Kevin has a Remand in hand. Oh my goodness, he's going to Remand the World Breaker. I don't even know if I want to make that play.
Yeah, the posturing there, Kevin was ready to slam Remand and then remembered, oh no, that is a cast trigger. Right.
That means Gerry gets another land destruction spell next turn? That seems excellent. Kevin will cast Explore. Play Steam Vents.
At this point, it's not clear what Kevin is actually even playing to.
And he'll pass. So Kevin's down to 13. We go back to Thompson.
If Gerry just, for whatever reason, just stops casting World Breaker, I don't know, like drops it on the ground and just never casts it again, then we could get up to Cryptic Command.
Right. So the way that Scapeshift decks win from a lot of unlosable, difficult board states is if they hit running Cryptic Commands, they can tap, team, and draw until they get up to 6 lands and then Scapeshift out their opponent.
Right. With it coming down this turn, it's a 5-power creature. The attack put Kevin down to 9. Thought Not Seer, World Breaker, that's 9 right there.
Yeah, that's enough. Kevin did draw a Cryptic on that last turn, but the World Breaker flexing its arm there, getting Kevin's lands on consecutive turns. Kevin not able to cast the Cryptic Command.
Yeah, big part of that game there, probably the entire story realistically. Kevin mulliganing to 5, stumbling on land drops, not really having a chance to win that game.
So game 1 over to Red Green Eldrazi and Gerry Thompson. Now, we're going to look at the sideboards here. I'm not sure that we have seen how this matchup plays out yet. There was enough mulliganing in that game that it seemed like, in the land of decks fighting at half strength, Gerry's 50% beat Kevin's 30%. Looking at the sideboards, we'll start over Kevin's side. He has 4 Obstinate Bailouts, 2 Dispels, 2 Wormcoil Engines, 2 Nature's Claim, 2 Shatterstorm, 1 Malira, 1 Negate, and 1 Sudden Shock.
None of these cards look good whatsoever. There's an argument for Wormcoil Engine. It's just a big, meaty creature you can get to tango with Gerry's big, meaty creatures. Wormcoil is kind of the king in that arena. There's not a lot of 6-power creatures for Gerry, so I don't hate Wormcoil Engine, particularly if there's something just like kind of dead air in our deck that we can board out for Wormcoil. I like that. Yeah,
Wormcoil Engine is very good at fighting Eldrazi, for example.
Negate is something we can consider as well. I wouldn't be terribly surprised to see that one come in. There's a few things like you can get Ancient Stirrings, kind of get at Gerry's consistency, but it's not the most exciting spell.
So back in Eldrazi Winter, Negate was not particularly good against the Eldrazi deck because the deck was mostly creatures. Now, that's no longer the case on Gerry's side?
Yeah, he hinges, I wouldn't say especially heavily, but Ancient Stirrings and Sylvan Scrying are important cards in Gerry's deck. So a Negate could kind of cripple his early game and his early mana development. That could set him back. There is only 1 copy, so it doesn't hurt you too much to bring it in, and it could matter a lot. So that one could certainly be coming in for Jones here, and it wouldn't surprise me to see the Negate.
All right, well, on Thompson's side, his sideboard for today is 2 Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Spellskites, 3 Feed the Clan, 1 All Is Dust, a Ghost Quarter, 2 Ancient Grudges, 2 Natural States, and 2 Warping Whales.
Warping Whale's the slam dunk here. We're going to see both copies of those coming in. They counter the Hallmark card Scapeshift.
Yeah, they counter sorceries.
Right. There's a few other sorceries you could tag in Kevin's list depending on how his development is going.
Explore, Farseek, Serum Visions.
Right. Gerry Thompson's a big fan of Ghost Quarter. Against Scapeshift, it has applications. If there's a Valakut hanging out and we just have a Prismatic Omen and we're playing that game, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's actually going to be weak against Kevin's build. Kevin's build plays 4 copies of Valakut and then the Prismatic Omens, so it's not great.
Right. The thing is, though, Gerry, I don't think that he's really going to need the Cavern of Souls in the main deck. It's fine.
It's pretty free.
There are counters in Kevin's list. We could board out, say, the Kessig Wolf Run. That one's kind of lame. Just a colorless land that could be more impactful.
Well, he does have 1 Ghost Quarter in the main, so this would actually be the second one, right?
Right. Yeah, and Ghost Quarter, the thing is, he wants colorless mana anyway. He's casting cards where colorless matters. Matter Reshaper, Thought Not Seer, Reality Smasher. We could even just see him bring in this extra land. That's an option that Gerry has.
Does have Kozilek's Returns.
Yeah, and those Kozilek's returns definitely not good in this matchup. So he definitely just wants a way to get those returns out of his deck.
Keep here from Kevin Jones for game 2. Gerry's going to go ahead and go back to 6. Now, if you are joining us on Twitch this weekend, we have a lot. First of all, I want to thank you guys for tuning in and watching us on Twitch TV. You guys at home are the people who make the SCG Tour possible. We have a new subscription service available this weekend. This one is actually pretty interesting. So we've always had subscriber-only chat and emoticons. This is for $4.99 a month. But a new thing we are premiering this weekend. This is a You Decide the Quarterfinals. So if you haven't subscribed with us on Twitch, you may want to do this. After the top 8 announcement on Sunday, there will be a live poll on the Twitch chat for subscribers to vote in, deciding of the decks that make top 8 and the players that make top 8, which matchup you'd like us to feature as our primary match for top 8 coverage. We'll be doing that this weekend. So if you're going to tune in, especially tomorrow, head on over to twitch.tv and sign up for the subscribers only. We'll also let you chat with us and be part of the community all weekend. Yeah,
this is a really awesome feature for our subscribers. Previously, sometimes people don't see the quarterfinal that they are maybe more excited about. Now you get a voice in that. Instead of saying, hey, Nick Miller, you picked the wrong match, you can say, don't blame me, I voted for Kodos. Or, if you're lucky, get the match you want.
Wasn't the thing that if you voted for Kodos or against Kodos, it didn't matter?
Right. It was,
I forget what the other one's name was.
Kane and Kodos.
Kane and Kodos. Kevin Jones on the play, starts with Steam Vents tapped. Gerry on a mulligan to 6. Land light, he has kept Grove of the Burnwillow's Ancient Stirrings. Karplusan Forest, so he will put Kevin to 21, cast Ancient Stirrings.
Stirrings at the height of its power level in Gerry's deck is finding a specific land he wants, finding a threat that he wants. In this hand, he just needs a land.
Isn't it? I mean, I would assume this card always wants to find Eldrazi Temple on every board state. Or just about.
In the early stages of the game, you're absolutely right.
He'll get Cavern of Souls. You mentioned the uncounterability does matter here. Kevin does play 4 copies of Remand and 4 copies of Cryptic Command.
Yep. With the World Breaker, it has a cast trigger. With things like Thought-Knot Seer, Reality Smasher, Matter Reshaper, we want them to enter the battlefield.
Now this keep from Kevin. He plays basic Island and passes back to Gerry. He does not appear to have a green mana source in play yet, and that is pretty big for the deck. Without ramping at all, this is a very fair Magic deck. Gerry will cast Sylvan Scrying.
And with Kevin not remanding any spell on site,
I expected, if he was going to keep a hand without green mana, I expected him to have a remand. Which
exactly.
You're surprised that this Sylvan Scrying is just happening?
Right. It seems like if we're not playing a green source, we've kept a land without a ramp spell or a green source to cast it and remand. That seems like too much.
I either want to be ramping up on my mana or I want to be remanding my opponent's spells. If I'm just going to play land drops, that's not enough. You see Kevin on turn 3 just plays a Valakut the Molten Pinnacle tapped.
And
this doesn't do anything.
That's not going to help either of these issues. We are 1 mana closer to Cryptic Command, so there's another blue source. We can start doing that.
Matter Reshaper will be the turn 3 play for Thompson. So keep in mind with this blue Scapeshift deck, this regular one, Valakut cannot be triggered without a Prismatic Omen in play or casting a Scapeshift. He does not actually have enough. He, in theory, has enough mountains to just start hitting land drops, but he's not going to do that.
Yeah, and if he does start doing that, he can't naturally just deal enough damage to win the game unless he has a bunch of Valakuts.
So Gerry, his draw for the turn was Eldrazi Temple. As is to be expected, it's great. It's always great. However, Kevin's all blue cards hand. This Cryptic Command seems like it'll be pretty good.
Okay, with that blue source untapped that turn and the Cryptic Command, we're starting to see why Kevin's hand was defensible. Yeah, and the interesting thing is because of Cavern of Souls, he cannot counter the Thought-Knot Seer. What he did is he cast, with the Enter the Battlefield trigger on the stack, he cast Cryptic Command to bounce the Thought-Knot Seer to Gerry's hand and draw a card. So what will happen is that Kevin will draw the card first, and then Gerry will get to exile from Kevin's hand, and that's what we see here. And it looks like Kevin has a bunch of Scape Shifts. So he's just trying to get... Yeah, it's not always the card you want in multiples, but... Yeah, he's just trying to get that draw trigger to help him find a bunch of ramp spells or keep hitting his land drops at least. And if the Thought-Knot Seer just resolves, then Gerry's just going to pluck the Cryptic Command. So
Kevin has 3 scape shifts in hand. He has, off those draws off Cryptic Command and the Thought-Knot Seer, he drew Misty Rainforest and Flooded Grove. So there are the green sources he was looking for.
Yeah, Flooded Grove's a big one. On its own, it gives you your double green.
So that can cast Scape Shift.
Right.
So here's a question for Gerry. Once Kevin hits 7 land in that Scape Shift, it's going to be game over. Maybe, I guess if Gerry stays at 19, then he'll need an 8th land.
Right.
Jerry's going to have to kill Kevin before he gets up to that land count, which, well, that seems pretty high right now. Or he has to find a way to exile all 3 Scape Shifts. Yeah, it's 3 Scape Shifts full of Tribe Elders. So it looks like he's going to try to get all the Scape Shifts. Here's the first one.
Right. With 2 Tribe Elders, our opponent's already on 4 lands. Evidence that the next 2 lands are going to be entering the battlefield over the course of the next 2 turns. It's not clear that taking the Score Tribe Elder would do anything.
Well, so Kevin has a play. Next turn of Flooded Grove, both Tribe Elders. Sack them both, untap, Scape Shift, win.
Right.
So if Jerry's taking one Scape Shift, it doesn't make sense unless he gets all 3. How does he get all 3 in time? I just don't see it.
He would need a way to cast 2 Thought-Knot Seers on the following turn. That looks to be impossible given the mana already available.
Maybe if he draws some World Breakers, he can World Break down those lands and buy himself some turns.
Right.
Here's Flooded Grove from Kevin. That'll make 2 green. He's going to go for Tribe Elder and Tribe Elder. That's exactly the play that Gerry knew about.
The other side of things is that given the board presence that Gerry has, his clock is far too anemic to win the game before Kevin just naturally gets up to enough lands.
Yeah. So he'll attack with Matter Shaper. Kevin will block, sacrifice, go get a forest. 6 lands in play. And Kevin has the 8 land Scape Shift. Sack Tribe Elder can get another forest. That's 7 mana. He has a Misty Rainforest in hand. That's 8. He can sacrifice all the lands but the Valakut, getting the second Valakut and 6 mountains. That will deal 36.
So the question here, now, here's the option. What if Gerry has drawn Warping Whale?
So second Thought-Knot Seer. Thought-Knot Seer comes back down, exiles the second Scape Shift. You're right. He's left up Grove of the Burn Willows. That can make colorless.
Right, so the second Thought-Knot Seer takes the second Scape Shift. There's 1 remaining.
Yeah, Warping Whale would do it.
Kevin is drawing up to 8 lands. A Remand or a Cryptic Command off the top could fight this battle.
It would win it. Yep.
Right. But if Warping Whale's here, Gerry is still live.
That sideboard card, 2 of them in the deck for Gerry. We'll see what Kevin drew. I think he drew Cryptic Command, so that takes all the excitement out of this one.
Right.
Or all the guesswork, I guess would say. Kevin's just got him.
Unless Kevin outrageously poorly taps his mana. I don't even know if there's an option for him to tap himself off a Cryptic Command here.
Yeah, he's going to go ahead and shock for the Steam Vents. 4 mana for Scape Shift. And he'll float the extra 4. That's how you want to do this. Mm-hmm. And here's Scape Shift with 4 mana floating. Gerry doesn't even have the Warping Whale. We're on to game 3.
Yep. Representative there. I don't think that there's a very high chance that Kevin just doesn't cast Scape Shift.
You can't really play around it. I mean, if Gerry had the Warping Whale and Kevin did not draw Cryptic Command, that could have been game over.
Right. Given that he drew the Cryptic Command, he's 100% just playing his 8th land, running out the Scape Shift.
Yeah.
There's just nothing that could go wrong. But, I mean, Gerry played to the outs that he had, and they just were far too slim.
So your Game 2 winner is Kevin Jones. He evens it up at 1 game apiece as the players will now play a 3rd deciding game. Looking back at the sideboards of the 2 players, you mentioned that really it's just Wormcoil Engine for Kevin Jones.
Wormcoil Engine, and we have Negate. Negate in that spot could have also been a top deck to fight over Warping Whale. I'm warming up a little bit more to this card as we see more happen. It's fine.
It's fine. I think what's interesting is both players in this matchup have a lot of cards that don't do very much already. You know, there are 4 Lightning Bolts in Kevin's deck. How many of those does he want?
Yeah, it only kills Matter Reshaper, but then Matter Reshaper just always replaces itself. I like sideboarding that one out.
So you see the jersey there? This is the newly announced team for Season 2 of the SCG Tour. It is Metagame Gurus, one of the members here, Kevin Jones, You may know him from 2 Players' Championship appearances. The 28-year-old from Kingstown, New York, has 8 Open Series top 8s, including that signature win with Jeskai that he picked up back in New Jersey a while ago. He, through and through, has styles of decks he likes. He likes these blue tempo decks, favoring creatures over tempo a lot of the time. You know, he's definitely always a Mantis Rider player. He won the Eternal Weekend Legacy Championships with Blue-Red Delver. Something that I certainly, you know, this is a style which you and him are similar on, but yet still different, right?
Yeah, the actual card choices that he makes are generally different than the ones that I would make, but we have a lot of overlap in archetypes. I'm also kind of surprised that we're not seeing Kevin on an Ancestral Vision deck, on some kind of Jeskai burn deck in Modern. That deck gained a lot of stock with Vision. Something with Snapcaster Mage and Restoration Angel seems right in Kevin's wheelhouse.
Yeah, the played college tennis over at Pace University was a walk-on, actually, for it. So a little bit of some athletic prowess there as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's like 12 feet tall, so that helps a lot in athletics.
Yeah, you can't hit lobs over him, you know, because
he just has
there's
a
not
wide
enough space.
There's a wide range of the court he's going to be able to return your shot from as well.
Hey, Raz, man, we have a so we have to zoom the camera actually really far out. He looks normal there, but
he's actually a monster.
He's actually a monster.
Kevin's a great guy. Get a chance to interact with him between rounds a lot at opens. This is all just fun ribbing.
Goes by the nickname of Daddy, a nickname he gave himself.
Right. He's just a delight. Real
This guy's
pleasure.
great.
Real pleasure to interact with. He's always having fun too. You know, he has some. He has a pretty good resume for Magic, but even when he's losing, he'll always tell you, I'm having fun. I like my deck. Magic's great.
Wants to get to a 3rd consecutive Players' Championship. Has said this year will be the hardest one for him. What he's been trying to work on is he's got those high finishes at Opens, because that his week in, week out performance is something he wants to work on.
Yep.
Danger here. Game 3, Gerry's on the play, plays a copy of Eldrazi Temple.
We're live. We're live for turn 2. Thought Knot. Do we have it?
There's another Temple in Gerry's hand.
He's thinking way too much for it to be a Thought Knot.
No, it's just going to be a turn 2 Matter Reshaper, but these are the hands that got the deck banned.
Right.
In the dark, it's just a bad matchup for everyone. So we see Matter Reshaper from Thompson and Sakura Tribe Elder for Jones. And when one player is playing turn 3 Reality Smashers and the other one's playing Explore, you just feel like we're not playing the same format.
It's the same game.
Yeah. The first time I played against Eldrazi, I played a Farseek, and then my opponent attacked me for 10 with a Mimic and Smasher, and I was thinking, I don't know what I registered, but this isn't good. My cards are substantially worse than yours at everything.
Thompson's starting with Ancient Stirrings here. I assume he's looking for a Thought Knot Seer, so we can get some information on Kevin's hand, be able to play that in turn 3. Still very good on turn 3.
He'll get Cavern of Souls. It looks like he had the choice of Eldrazi Temple or Cavern of Souls here. He went with Cavern. Swings Matter Shaper. Kevin will block before damage sacrifice.
Yeah, Thompson already has a World Breaker. Just wants to be able to start resolving Eldrazi and closing this game.
He plays Talisman of Impulse. He does have another Eldrazi Temple in his hand next turn, which means on turn 4 he can play 7 mana uncounterable Eldrazi spells. That's reasonable, right?
Yeah, a 5/7 Stone Rain.
Uncounterable. I mean, Kevin could have the Cryptic Command, but
he could return it to Gerry's hand so that Gerry could Stone Rain him again next turn.
Yeah, that's great. Kevin will play a land and pass. Leaves up Cryptic.
This is a pretty strong sign that Kevin just doesn't have access to a ramp spell in his hand.
Gerry drew Thought Knot Seer for the turn, even better. You see World Breaker, Lightning Bolt, Eldrazi Temple, Thought Knot Seer is Gerry's hand.
I'm relatively convinced that we're just jamming World Breaker here. This is like the first turn where drawing Thought Knot Seer isn't great immediately. We could see him lead on it, but I'm biased towards the World Breaker right now. Just cast that, you use all of your mana, Stone Rain.
Here's World Breaker, uncounterable. Yeah, you see Kevin's looking at this. Yeah, I guess that happens.
What he's actually saying is, that's messed up, Gerry.
So what, this is turn 4? Turn 4.
It's reasonable.
We'll see what he exiles. Probably the Stomping Ground. Looks like he went for a basic island. Kevin goes ahead and fetches for Breeding Pool, untapped. Oh my, he is going to Cryptic to bounce Mattery Shaper to Gerry's hand and draw a card. That makes sense.
So the reason we see Gerry going for the island here is given that Kevin's passing on turn 4, this heavily implies a heavy Cryptic Command deck. Minimally, there's going to be 1 copy here. So he's trying to choke Kevin on actually casting Cryptic Command. Not necessarily better than going for the Breeding Pool, but that wasn't in play when the World Breaker was cast. That was actually fetched in response. So that's why we see him go for basic island.
Kevin will play a copy of Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle, and now play Prismatic Omen and pass the turn. Omen plus Scapeshift requires 6 lands to be lethal. So we are back to Thompson. He'll untap turn 5 with a 5/7 in play, multiple Lightning Bolts in hand.
And now on this turn, that Thought-Knot Seer should be excellent, and unless Kevin's hand is just obscene.
Gerry gonna be careful to make sure everything is uncounterable. He'll play Thought-Knot Seer. Kevin's hand has 2 lands, 2 Scapeshifts, and a Wormcoil Engine.
Okay, this is a difficult hand to navigate. You can't take Kevin off of Scapeshift with the Thought-Knot Seer alone.
It's dead in 2 turns. Remember that. Omen, Scapeshift, 6 mana. So that Wormcoil doesn't really feel like a card here. On the other hand, between an attack next turn and those 2 Lightning Bolts, Kevin's actually dead.
Yeah, I assume we're going to see him go for the Wormcoil Engine on the following turn. Unless Kevin draws Cryptic Command, Gerry can attack for 9, put Kevin to 3, bolt him to death.
He'll take the Wormcoil. Here's Mattery Shaper and a pass.
And now with the Mattery Shaper, his creatures in play are just lethal on their own.
If Kevin draws a ramp spell here, that fetch land in hand is 2 Lightning Bolts because of Prismatic Omen.
Okay. That's something.
It would be land, because land 6, it's a mountain, and then you fetch it and you get another mountain, and that would keep Kevin alive. He drew Serum Visions. So if he drew a ramp spell of Serum Visions, once again, that fetch land still works.
Unfortunately for Kevin Jones fans, it was a land.
It was a land. So game and match in 3 to Gerry Thompson. Red-Green Eldrazi. I mean, not dead, still good. He's 3-0 on the tournament.
Yep, Kevin stumbled a bit in that match. Gerry found the Cavern of Souls, which actually came into play. It was pretty relevant in that match. So Gerry's deck looks sweet.
Hey, if I can have some Eldrazi Temples every game, I would still register that every time.
Yeah.
That's as we showcased there,